Welcome. This is the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, Forbes contributor, and general explorer of the service and experience space. The thing I'm really interested in is how do we create organizations that produce better outcomes for both their customers and their people. This podcast has been running since January 2011, and so we have a big archive to explore. Check out the archive at adrianswinscoe.com. Welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. This time we're going to do something slightly different. This time it's a twofer, and we'll feature two separate conversations I had with two of Qualtrics's customers when I attended the recent X4 Summit in Salt Lake City. The first interview is with Ron Secrist, who's a global head of CX at Citi. So let's get into the interview with Ron.
So let me just kind of start by saying thank you that I am with Ron Secrist, who's a global head of CX at Citi. Citibank or Citi is truncated? Citi.
Yeah.
Thank you for spending some time with me today at Qualtrics X4 Summit here in Salt Lake City. First of all, can I ask you to, you've been here. We've had a day one, right?
Day one.
What have been the highlights for you so far?
Wow. It's been a great day. Let's see. I really enjoyed the main stage this morning. In particular, I'm a bit of a motorhead, so I enjoyed the Porsche.
Right.
The Porsche talk, and the new Macan, I think, is a fantastic vehicle. So I enjoyed that. Like,
are you going to get on the waiting list?
I'm already on the waiting list. I hate to admit, I don't know whether I'll ever do anything with that, but I just like the marketing communications. They do such a fantastic job of curating that experience, and so more from probably a learning standpoint at this point, but. Okay. It is a phenomenal vehicle. The other thing, of course, being in industry, hearing about the partnership between Delta and American Express was certainly interesting to a guy who's at Citi.
Of course.
And
you're like going, oh, those checks, they're signing.
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic to learn about how two companies work together to elevate the experience and the way that they were kind of interacting and trying to do things that were mutually beneficial for both of them. And their customers at the same time, I thought was pretty inspiring. So those are my two highlights today.
That's awesome. And so I know that you're here as a customer of Qualtrics as well, a user of Qualtrics.
Of course.
How are you using Qualtrics?
Yeah, so we have a big implementation of Qualtrics.
Okay.
We run about 30 different surveys just within the US. We use the product globally.
Uh-huh.
The survey program we do is across all of our channels. So whether you're on mobile, on our website, in our branch, or calling someone, we are using the survey program. It's been a phenomenal step forward for us.
Okay.
Both in our ability to customize the way those surveys work at the speed that works for our business.
Okay.
The tools that they give us are world class, and I think the insights that we're able to get in real time and the ability for us to actually almost decentralize where the feedback goes. So that if you're in a branch, you have a custom dashboard to help you manage that branch most effectively. But in me, looking at the client experience overall, I have my own dashboard that I can look at and understand what's happening across all my channels at any moment. What are the common themes? What are the big investments we need to make in order to continue to level up the experience for our clients?
And how long has been how long is the relationship you've had with Qualtrics?
Yeah, no, I think we've been talking with Qualtrics for about 5 years. We implemented we did our big conversion in November of 22.
Okay.
So it's been about 18 months. And I would say the acceleration of our program in that 18 months is nothing more than astonishing. It's been really great, I think, to go from migrating our legacy program to then getting all of the expertise of the Qualtrics team to help us revamp all of those programs to make them more targeted, more actionable, higher response rates for our customers, better feedback, better insights using the text analytics tools to start to action those things and make improvements in the lives of our clients every day.
And so is it fair to say that you've gone from having just a straightforward VOC program to be
correct
a VOC plus and more move into that sort of XM management sort of like space?
Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely.
And how's the business? It's like, what, 18 months since you started?
Yes.
What sort of tangible benefits have you actually seen so far?
Yeah. In a lot of ways, what Qualtrics has let us do is tie customer feedback and someone's likelihood to recommend to how we create value, both for our clients and for the bank.
Mm-hmm.
And so what we now know versus what we knew kind of before the last 18 months, we now know how to value what a great experience looks like versus if somebody has a less than great experience.
Okay.
And so that's actually transformational if you think about it. In a lot of ways, we always knew intuitively that a great experience meant a customer was going to be happy and was more likely to spend more with you or do more things with you. But now I know for certain that actually each dollar I spend for experience, I know what that's going to pay back. And I know that not only will our clients be happier, but also that our business will continue to thrive and grow because we're both winning together.
Okay. I mean, because you alluded there to kind of like sort of the ROI.
Correct.
I mean, can you give me a flavor of what sort of what was the uptake, or is that kind of like?
I probably can't go into like the specific numbers, but I can tell you that there's dramatic separation from somebody who has a great experience on an individual journey versus somebody who doesn't.
Sure.
So it's a determining factor to whether somebody's a long-term customer with you. And what we try to do is we try to identify those different journeys that maybe have more struggles in them. And we systematically go through, we try to understand through the feedback where customers are struggling. And then we watch what happens when we make those targeted improvements. If we see those go up, and if we do, then we know that we're creating value both for customers and for us because they're getting a product that they want and it's performing like they expect it to. And we're retaining somebody versus having to get out there and reacquire a customer.
So I understand the idea of, the whole Qualtrics piece, the story, as it were, is like listening and taking action at scale in real time.
Yes.
And so what I'm interested in is like, that's great, having it all connect together. And then you talk about how that's improved things. We're like going, but have you heard about any sort of tangible examples where you're going like, yeah, we listened to that. We heard that. We were all connected through. We were able to take some action in real time. And this is what actually happened.
Yeah. Maybe the best place to take this is, maybe not it's not been a real time thing. One of the things we heard loud and clear from customers, especially in our retail bank, was that a lot of the product offerings we had were much too complicated.
Right.
And so you could think about like, my checking account, if you take these 4 actions, you won't have a fee. And if you deposit this much, you'll get this many more benefits. It was almost like a complex maze for customers to look through to understand like, well, how much money should I have in my checking account at any moment? What happens if I have less? What happens if I have more? And we listened to all that feedback and over the course of last year and this year, we're rolling out what we call simplified banking.
Okay.
And it's a very public rollout. Any branch you walk into, you see our simplified banking products. And we basically simplified our program to something that customers would easily grasp. And basically we followed almost an airline loyalty program.
Okay.
And so what it says is in each kind of relationship tier we have, there's 2 or 3 actions that you need to take, and there are benefits associated with that.
Okay.
And so as you advance in your relationship with us, you get more value out of that relationship. And if you kind of backslide for whatever reason, we put you in a different relationship tier, just like an airline would. The more you fly, the more benefits you get. It works the same way. But that was all based upon customer feedback and the survey program that we have.
Right.
And testing that we did over time in real time to actually arrive at that solution so that it was very simple for a customer to know, here's how our products fit together and what you can do, customer, in order to determine what level of relationship you have with us.
Okay. Yeah. That makes sense. So given everything that's been on display at X4 and all the new features and functionality that's coming down the pipeline, that, what's your plan? Kind of like going forward, you're like going, I don't know. I could so much to consider.
There's no doubt that this is an exciting time to be an experienced professional, both with, I think the features that we've had, as well as, I think a lot of the features coming online, certainly artificial intelligence is one of them that everybody's talking about. So I think it's just a super exciting time. Our plan is to continue to, I think, learn how we can get more and more feedback, more and more data from our customers on what's important to them, and use the tools to inform how to make each of those interactions that they have, whether it's digital or with a human, in person or on the phone, more efficient and easy for our customers, right? My whole goal with using those tools is to do more and more work on behalf of our client, to solve problems for them before they even know that they've happened.
Sure.
And so if we can find ways to proactively help our customers succeed, I have no doubt that one, they'll be happier. Two, they'll make more progress from a financial standpoint for themselves. And three, like our business wins because we have happy customers that want to continue to do more business with us. So I look at all of those innovations as ways to just shorten the amount of time, get very specific on what we need to do to change. And if we can shorten that to be almost instantaneous and then put solutions out there using those same tools that can do work on behalf of clients to keep them safe and help them succeed, we'll win in the market.
Fantastic. And just a kind of a couple of things to wrap up, which I always ask on the end of these kind of conversations, is that I try and boil things down. And I say to people kind of like, can you give me your best advice? Your best advice to somebody listening to this who wants to improve their customer or employee experience. Mm-hmm. And I say, make it easier.
Right.
I say, complete this sentence.
Okay.
If you want to improve your customer or employee experience, Ron Secrist of Citi says, do this, ... Complete that sentence.
Okay.
How would you complete that sentence?
Wow. I would say make it work every time. Make it reliable, make it work every time, and show people that you know them by proactively doing work on their behalf.
Fantastic. I love it because I love what you said at the beginning, because I think there's a foundation.
Yeah.
Trust building.
Correct.
And you have to get that right because Correct. It allows you to do.
Actually, I think of trust that way. Actually, trust is every time you interact with us, you have an expectation. We want to make sure that we're hitting that expectation every single time. And if we hit it every time, we'll build trust. And if we can build trust, then we have all the kinds of authority and credibility with the customer to help advise them on what's best in their
and part of the time
lives.
You build your emotional bank account.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
100%.
And so, but the one last kind of question, because I have this thing called the Punk CX podcast, and there's a couple of books called Punk CX, Punk XL.
Awesome.
Things.
Yeah.
And I also ask people at the end, is there one brand that you look to in the market that you say they're taking a bit more of a punk approach to it, or you think that they're an experienced leader? Because that's what XL stands for. And you look towards and go, yeah, we like them. They're great. No, it doesn't need to be a competitor. It doesn't.
No.
It could be a local. It could be a local coffee shop. So
I have to admit the experience that I am quite taken with right now is my Spotify day list.
Okay.
I just think it's the coolest thing ever to 4 times a day get a customized playlist that is based upon my mood and the things that they know about me.
Okay.
It's phenomenal. I like seeing what they think, how they think I'm going to feel at each part of my day. And, it's just fascinating. It's a fascinating way of taking like large sets of data, which music catalog is, trying to boil it down into something that you think that human would want in that moment in time.
Sure.
And more often than not, I find myself even just checking to see what they've populated for me in the moment to see if it matches. Pretty darn good at it, actually, is what it is. So that's pretty punk in my opinion.
Love it. There you go. I was just about to run. Ron, thank you so much.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you. I appreciate it.
Now, wasn't that great? I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Now, without any further ado, let's get into the second interview that I did. And this time, this is with Christina Sansone, who is the Vice President of CX Transformation across at Dish.
First of all, I want to say welcome to the Punk CX podcast. It's called Punk CX. I'll explain a little bit about that sort of as we go through. That's just the branding sort of thing. For our listeners, I'm with Christina Sansone, who's the Vice President of CX Transformation at Dish. And I watched your presentation yesterday. So thank you for joining me. I wanted to say, first of all, before I go into anything, congratulate you on 3 things. 1, for being named, was it 6 years running, number 1 in customer satisfaction in the cable, satellite, and TV space by JD Power?
Yes.
Well done on that. I mean, that's why people should listen to this, because that's not an easy thing to do. For also winning the Breakthrough Artist Award. You were up on stage earlier on, so congratulations on that. Yes. And also in your presentation yesterday, which I thought was ace. So 3 things. Round of applause.
Thank you.
So, but I know that you've been given that because I saw your presentation yesterday, and I also kind of saw you up on the stage today. So you've been here for the last couple of days, and I wanted to ask you just for your reflections on what have been your key highlights or takeaways from X4 this year. What's been because there's been a lot of stuff. What stood out for you?
It's been a lot. One of the things that we're really looking forward to is bringing the CX and EX closer together, right? Because today we're kind of managing them separately and we're linking them manually. And so I think from what I saw and continue to see evolving with Qualtrics, we have some opportunities to start bringing those things much, much closer together. The other thing was just Brad's presentation this morning on really what AI is going to enable across all of the XM platforms. We've been working towards this for so long, like to see it finally come to life. It's real. It's within my midst, right? So my whole team is here and just really, really excited. I think they always knew that this is what we were working towards. But as I mentioned in my presentation yesterday, we've been able to go from understanding some of our CX points in 3 to 4 weeks. We've got it done in 3 to 4 days. Now we're looking forward to getting it done in like 3 to 4 hours.
Sure.
Like this is it's just huge with the amount of information that you can get by processing these piles of unstructured data and finding the real insights that are in there that normally you wouldn't find.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, there's sometimes the acceleration that's available in terms of that. I mean, the big story for me seems to be here is like listening, taking action at scale in real time. And that's almost like being played out. So like, this is how you can do that. I wanted to go back to your presentation and ask you, a bit about, tell me where you're at right now and so what you're focused on, because I know you talked about in the presentation, you're on your own journey. And you were like going, how are we doing? How did we do? Or I don't know how I can't remember how you described it, but tell me a little bit about where you are at on your journey.
So we had started with how did we do? Very reactive.
Yes.
We learned a lot, but we were generally fixing things more for future customers than previous. We transitioned that into the how are we doing? So getting that in the moment feedback. This is why the overall satisfaction survey responses were so important to us. And now we're really moving into how do we anticipate? So can we predict things so that we can preempt them?
Yes.
And so we're kind of in the middle of those last two right now. And it's really the AI being able to help us manage and analyze that data at scale that's going to get us to that preemptive space.
Yeah, because the thing that I saw that was really interesting, it was almost the second time that it showed up, I think yesterday, that you put up a picture of an iceberg.
I love icebergs.
Yeah. And it sort of reminded me, there's like an old piece of research about, which relates to this complaints iceberg, that there's only like a tip of people that actually tell you when they're dissatisfied. And then there's all these other silent complaints. But that's all been the thing that you've almost like hung your whole program off of, realizing this is all there. You've just got to try and figure out how to access. And so what have you done to try and access those silent complaints or the non-complainers or the people that are going, do I feel strongly enough to say something? How do you kind of access that sort of sentiment, as it were, and be able to figure out what to do about it?
So we learn a lot from the top of that iceberg, right? So we've had to really go with the mindset. If it happens to one customer or one customer has this experience, we have to assume there's more like them.
Right.
They're not a one-off. So we took that assumption off the table. Sometimes we're wrong, but most of the time we're right. And then, so if we understand the attribute of that experience, then it allows us to go back through all the other customer information and find cohorts that have a likelihood to be experiencing the same thing. And so we can do a proactive treatment, basically.
Is that by just kind of thinking about, okay, these people have got different markers and therefore these people have got similar markers and therefore there's a likelihood.
There's a likelihood.
Right.
And we have a lot of different data and metrics, and it varies very widely by line of business that we're looking at this in. But because also, like, when you think about particularly like Sling TV or Boost Mobile,
Yeah.
these are customers that are paying month for month. They can just stop paying us and not tell us that
Sure.
they're unhappy. So, they may be shopping around for something better, and we just don't know. So maybe that's why they're not complaining,
Okay.
right? So the speed at which we can do that is incredibly important, because we want to make sure that we can preempt and provide the experience they're expecting before they hit the end of that period.
Right. Okay. So it's a bit like almost taking like customer success sort of like markers and going like, well, these people are if they exhibit or do these sort of things, then they're likely to churn.
Yes.
If some other people are displaying the same sort of like behaviors, then they're likely to churn as well. Therefore, you could try and get in front of it.
Yes, 100%.
Perfect. And one of the most popular sessions yesterday in the breakout sessions was, and they had to run it again, they announced it from the stage, was like how to demonstrate ROI from your CX control. And it's a perennial thing about demonstrating ROI. I mean, can you tell me a little bit about some of the tangible business outcomes that you've been able to sort of achieve by using your approach and kind of have it sort of like fueled by kind of Qualtrics and the technology? What's the impact?
We're finding actually some pretty great impact. So obviously every experience that we address has different markers to it. So sometimes it's a loyalty. So can we keep customers with us longer? Can we help drive tenure? Sometimes it's operational. There's still operational efficiencies to be had. But I will say when we find operational efficiency, it's also like a poor CX.
Sure.
Anyway, so they kind of go hand in hand. But Nathan, who was on stage with me today, he has a running tally of every single thing that we found. And so when we go through the scope, size, validate, he puts some number on it, whether it's a savings or it's a loyalty driver, etc. And so as we manage it, he just keeps track of the impact along, so that at the end of the year when finance asks us,
you let go.
We go, here it is. We're done. Yes. But you really do have to manage that stuff. And, sometimes it doesn't have as big of an impact as you think. And then there's other things that you think have a small impact that have a much bigger impact than you think. So it's really important to manage all of that, not just because you're going to have to justify it through the next budget cycle, but also because that's how we're learning about what's really important in what we should be focused on, right?
Yeah.
So it's a big learning opportunity across the board.
I also really liked the, you did it across the different, whether it was Boost Mobile or it was Dish, you had these video feedback by video. And I thought that was fascinating because you were talking about other data that you can get from the few. I mean, like some of your customers were just waxing lyrical about some of your agents, which is obviously brilliant to hear. And you can use those videos and you pass it around to your agents and it's going to have a really positive impact. But tell me a little bit about some of the other things that you're discovering about your customers, about that whole thing about assumptions sort of thing. And all these other data, kind of like your whole small data, contextual data kind of points you find about your customers by feedback kind of process, video feedback process.
I mean, I think the most interesting thing to me is when our customers answering our survey and they decide to give feedback by video, where are they?
Yeah.
Right. And you noticed our TV customers were very broadly likely on the sofa or in the recliner, which is probably where they sit and view their TV, right? You see the crafts in the background. You see, I think I said we had a handmade crocheted blanket in the background. We generally have a lot of cats on laps or on shoulders, and it just gives you a much better feel for who these customers are, how they live, and why our service is so important to them. If you looked at the difference with the Boost Mobile customers, we saw somebody who was sitting in their car, probably an Uber driver.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
There was that really happy lady that was thumbs upping all the time.
Sure.
And so you just get a much better sense of who they are. And then once you know that, when you think about different ways that you can serve them or delight these people, you have all the context.
And how are you, I mean, because the video is there, so it's really rich.
Yes.
All these, and so what are you doing to try and extract that data or capture that data, then sort of almost leverage it, as it were, going forward because it seems like it's a great opportunity. It's not very often, because I know you also said that you didn't incentivize people to do it. It's just like, here's an open thing. If you'd like to send us a video, then send us a video. And you got information about their contacts, their environment, their equipment they're using, and all these different sort of things. And I just wondered, how are you parsing out those insights that's in those videos to almost put it back into the system to be able to leverage it?
We, so we have like transcription of that, right? Which where you kind of lose that depth of the video.
Sure.
But what we typically use it for is when we're when we analyze other things and we say, here's what customers say, or here's what we think we can do to make this better, having the video as an add-on to that. So it's not just me having a presentation and saying, we've analyzed the numbers and here's what's going on. Like, but you know what? I can explain this to you, but let me have the customer explain it to you. It brings it all to life.
Okay.
Right. And it just makes it real to everybody in the room to think about, oh, okay, now I get it.
Yeah. Okay. So it just brings it to life, kind of like it becomes another tool to be able to spread the message and the impact and everything else.
Yeah. We talk about human connections a lot. Sure. And this really helps enable a lot of those human connections.
And so what's the, how do you expect your program to evolve and mature in the months, the next year, let's say, the next couple of years? What's the big plans?
We're pretty excited about what we saw this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think our next step is to try some of these new AI features and see what else it is we can learn, and how maybe some of the things that we're still doing somewhat manually today, we can automate. We've got to build a lot of trust in that. Like, we want to make sure that we're validating what the AI is telling us, right? That's always kind of the challenge there.
Sure.
But then that means we can analyze more and more and more data. And so that's really what we're looking at, is what other sources of data can we ingest into this process to kind of fill in whatever gaps we still have remaining.
Right. And just to finish off, I have a few quick fire questions.
Okay.
Right. Because when I do these kind of podcasts, we kind of talk about all sorts of different things. But when people are in positions of responsibility and authority, they're leading big programs and having great results, we can talk about lots of different things. And I also like to boil it down for people and to say, well, to our listeners, I also ask you to give me your best advice to someone that's, say, listening in, that wants to improve either a customer or employee experience. What would you say? But how I frame that, I've been saying, complete this sentence. If you want to improve your customer employee experience, Christina Sansone says, do this, ... Over to you, Christina. Complete that sentence.
You have to start with listening. That's number one. You have to take that, though, and act. Like, listening without action doesn't go anywhere.
No.
You've got to put your money where your mouth is from that perspective.
Perfect. And then the second one is, because this is a Punk CX podcast, I wrote 2 books that are Punk themed. One's Punk CX and the follow-up was Punk XL. And XL stands for Experience Leader, or Experience Leadership. I mean, who do you look to in the market? You just think they're doing a great job. Like, who's your favorite kind of like experience that you've had recently? You've just gone, I love that. And it could be a local coffee shop, or it could be kind of your local grocer, or it could be something. Like, do you have an example that you think they're doing a great job? They've got it all knitted together, apart from yourselves, obviously.
I pay attention to every customer experience, right? Because that's what I do. I will tell you, I happen to be a very early adopter of Sonos.
Okay.
So if you're familiar with Sonos speakers, they did a big technology change a few years ago. Unfortunately, I had one of the sound bars that became somewhat obsolete. And so we can no longer control the volume on it without hitting buttons. And so contacted their customer service, or like, it doesn't connect anymore. What do we do? Kind of freaking out, because for some reason, this is the centerpiece of our living room. We loved it, right?
Right.
They had one-way video with their agent and walked us through all the troubleshooting steps on the equipment. So we could see the agent, but they couldn't see us.
Right.
Right. So you kind of felt a little protected. Walked us all the way through and found a way to get it to work again. And I was just floored, like just absolutely floored. Took about 25 minutes. But the fact that they cared enough and understood how much it meant, right? And gave us that personal attention at that time. Like, it just meant a lot.
Cool. Fantastic. Big shout out to Sonos.
Yeah.
So, Christina, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing your time and your insight, your expertise. Congratulations on all your success. The award, the JD Power ranking, great presentation yesterday, and just thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinscoe.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinscoe.com. Do tune in again. Thanks very much.